Welcome to the Friends and Rivals podcast.
'Twas the night before the hockey, and all through the league, not a player was resting, not one even fatigued. Their socks were hung by their lockers with care, in hopes that opening night soon would be there. The players were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of five holes danced in their heads. And Hughes with his roids, and Crosby in his pampers, had just settled their brains for a short winter slumber. When out on the ice, they heard hockey stops. They sprang from their beds to see what was up. Away to the glass, they flew like a rocket. They tore through the locker room and busted in like Rick Tocchet. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but an Igor glove save on Barzal so dear. Igor spoke no English and went right to his work, and he made a kick save and glove save on that jerk. Giving a nod and a wink of his eye, he showed Barzy the puck in his glove with a sigh. But I heard him explain as he drove out of sight, Igra nichalas, which in Russian means game on.
Let's talk Devils and Islanders, let's talk Penguins and Rangers, but let's not talk about Flyers, cause they're a bunch of fucks, which no one can deny,
Latest episode of Friends and Rivals podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tom Harkness. Along with me, as always, are
Stephen Wojtowicz,
Bill Fougere,
Nick Loretta.
wonderful. Still keeping up with the last names.
You
sure
sure
next
about
is a
that?
question.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to do that the last few weeks. I keep forgetting to do it.
Well, boys, I have a little poem for you on the eve of hockey.
Tell
Is
us a
everybody ready?
bedtime story, Daddy.
Oh,
Tell us a
it's-
bedtime story,
It-
please.
It's a good one. The holiday season got me into this one. So here we go. 'Twas the night before the hockey, and all through the league, not a player was resting, not one even fatigued. Their socks were hung by their lockers with care, in hopes that opening night soon would be there. The players were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of five holes danced in their heads. And Hughes with his roids, and Crosby in his pampers, had just settled their brains for a short winter slumber. When out on the ice, they heard hockey stops. They sprang from their beds to see what was up. Away to the glass, they flew like a rocket. They tore through the locker room and busted in like Rick Tocchet. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but an Igor glove save on Barzal so dear. Igor spoke no English and went right to his work, and he made a kick save and glove save on that jerk. Giving a nod and a wink of his eye, he showed Barzy the puck in his glove with a sigh. But I heard him explain as he drove out of sight, Igra nichalas, which in Russian means game on. Thank you, boys. I could have done that without my trusty assistant, Bill Fougere. Billy, thank you very much for
Well done.
making it sound better.
Punched it up. He punched it up a little bit.
He definitely made it sound better for sure.
Nice job.
Steve, can you do that kid's voice that you did right before he started again?
Yes, what do you want me to say, Billy?
It doesn't matter because it's really working for me. Just keep going. I just 5 more minutes.
Can you just put it on the table for me to see?
I don't, can you?
Why is he
Please?
spitting at me, Billy?
So tomorrow we get hockey.
Thank God.
Thank
First
God.
game, Flyers, Penguins, 5:30, NBC Sports. Cannot wait.
Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck
Fuck
Flyers.
the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
Oh, jazzy. Love it.
Yeah, really. I mean,
Feeling jazzy.
question mark name. Now with the jazzy fuck the Flyers. I mean, we got a
Hey, I got
special
some
Nick
coffee
Reader
in me.
tonight.
I gotta get all.
It goes without saying, but watching these games this year is really going to be tough because there's never going to be a night where I want to root for anybody in those Eastern Division games. Like, I don't want to root for Philly tomorrow, but I don't want to root for Pittsburgh.
I never want to
good
root
point.
for Philly. Ever want to root for Philly?
Do you ever
So
want to
is
root
that
for
a-
Pittsburgh?
When they're playing the Flyers? Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
I'm rooting for the Devils when they're playing the Flyers. Yeah. I'm rooting for all our teams when they're playing the Flyers.
Absolutely. Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
But that's okay. You don't have to return the favor. That's your call. That's okay. You're your own person.
I mean, I'm going to root for the Penguins. I don't want to, but I'm going to.
Oh, thank Christ.
Isn't it like
I
an
don't know if
interesting
that's
thing?
I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's good for you guys that I want to root for the Penguins. You know my jinx.
Well, just put $5 bet on the Flyers, and we're all good.
Maybe I will do that. What's $5 on the Flyers every game for the whole season, Bill? What's that work out to be? Come on, quick, go.
$280.
$280 for the Flyers to lose every game. I think it's a worthy investment.
I might even chip in if that happens. I'll let you take the first 10 though. I'll let you take the first 10 just to see if it's going to happen.
Okay. Just to see if it's working. Good call.
Yeah, no doubt. No reason to give you money unnecessarily. So weekend review time. Penguins got the first game. Billy, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Penguins finished up training camp. They did have a bit of an incident, or they got shut down on Saturday for out of quote unquote abundance of caution over a COVID exposure, possible COVID exposure. So they did take a nice day off there on Saturday, but they were back in action, closing out camp. I think earlier today. I think they had a practice, and looks like they've broken camp. The lines are set. You know, the only guy that they don't have is Kapanen. Still going to be another few days before he gets to join the rest of the group, but they've figured out their roster, their taxi squad, their lines going into tomorrow and ready to go.
I forgot. Is Kapanen have COVID, or does he have some sort of injury?
No, it was the problem with his MasterCard. It was a problem with his MasterCard coming in from overseas, and then he couldn't make it over here.
I wasn't even trying for that joke, but you're right. It was that. But hey, I think we got to give a lot of props to all the NHL clubs out there, because they've released their data on their COVID testing, and over 1,200 tests were performed, and 27 people out of those 1,200, and 17 on the Dallas Stars. I mean, I think that's a
I was going to say, let's give credit to every team except Dallas.
Well, except the Dallas Stars. You are correct about that. But hey, the Penguins did the right thing by closing their facility down just to protect against it. They did the right thing, regardless of what anybody says. But all props to all of the NHL clubs out there for avoiding the corona, except the Stars.
Except the Stars.
And the Flyers, because fuck the Flyers.
Oh, fuck the Flyers.
Of course.
I would never wish corona on anybody, ever.
No, not at all. But if there was a team that just absolutely had to.
I mean, if we had to say one team, it'd probably be in our division.
Yeah.
But no, definitely not. We don't want to see that.
Maybe Gritty gets it first. No?
Gritty's patient zero, dude.
Is he? He ate the bat?
There was no corona before there was a Gritty, that's for sure.
There you go.
Wow. That is for sure. Man. Is that all that happened with the Penguins?
Well, I can go into the line combinations. That's about all that's going on.
Well, I think we're going to save that for the season preview, right?
Yeah. So no, that's pretty much their week.
All right. Good. Nick, New York Islanders, you had a pretty uneventful week, right?
Mostly. Barzal signed, so that was last week though, so we're all good.
No, we haven't talked about it yet on this podcast.
We haven't talked about it here. Yeah.
No.
Oh shit, we didn't. I thought we did. Did we talk about last week?
No.
I mean, I thought I gave you a good lead in there, but maybe I'll work on it next time.
All right. Well, apparently I forgot what day it was. Yeah.
That was an alley-oop that was slam dunked off the back of the fucking rim.
Yeah. That was fucking great. So yeah, we signed our franchise player. That was a pretty important thing. I thought it was last week, but these days just keep flying by. So
Andy Green?
Yeah, Andy Green.
No,
1 year
Martin.
deal. Matty Ice. Yeah, he as well. So Barzal, 3 years, $7 million cap hit, bridge deal, gets back into RFA. 1 year left in his 1 year left of RFA at the end of the deal. So I think it's a pretty decent bridge deal. I thought it'd be around $8 million, but
arbitration eligible at the end of it, right? That last year's arbitration.
Yeah, I believe so.
Like I think we can all agree that he's not getting to that arbitration hearing or anything else like that, and he's gonna sign a longer term deal, hopefully at more money.
So they talked a 6 year deal was the original discussions, and they couldn't make it work because of those prize worth cap. We couldn't find a buyer for number of guys that no one's got money to take. That's the problem. Normally, you'd probably be able to find a buyer for Komarov or Hickey, because their cap hits are not very high, but nobody's buying right now. Everyone's basically at the same, either in a similar situation, or they don't want to make a lot of moves right now until the end of the year and see how things go. Flat cap for the next couple of years. So I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting maneuvers, especially next year for the Isles. And I think you're going to see a lot of incentive from all the teams not named Seattle trying to pawn off any bad deals they can to Seattle. I think that's going to be a key thing for pretty much a number of teams. So we signed him. Obviously, like I said, they couldn't make a 6-year deal work out, which is kind of, I think, why it took so long to get him signed. There was never any animosity between him and his agent and the team. They were very much, they wanted to play. They were just trying to knock out the longer deal. The talk was it was going to be like, I think around a little more. I thought it was going to probably be around like 9.5 a year if they got to 6 years. They'd be buying 3 years UFA, so or 4 years or 2 years UFA if they went into that deal, a 6-year deal. So I think at this point though, it's pretty good bridge deal. He'll get a chance to prove himself to be a top guy, and if he doesn't have those numbers, then the gamble won't pay off. But and his deal won't be like a $12 to $14 million deal, but I think he'll still get a pretty good deal when all things are said and done, even in like this kind of system with Twas as a coach, more defensive minded. But I think he's still gonna probably end up in the 10 to 12 range when it's all said and done, for a longer term. I don't know. We'll see.
It's absolutely going to be higher. I think this was a little penny wise, dollar foolish, and not saving yourself 3 years of $13 to $14 million and paying him at an average salary of $9 million for 3 additional years. I get what their cap position is, but it's something you got to do.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. It depends what happens at the end of the in 3 years. What's the cap going to look like? And I think a lot of teams are going to have to. I mean, every time this happens, right? Same deal. Every team's like, yeah, cap, we're in cap problems, and then they get cap relief. They put the cap goes up, and then they all do the same dumb shit and give worse deals to even more mediocre players like Andrew Ladd. So it's just one of those things where you got to hopefully just hope that it works out well in the long run. Outside of
nobody claimed him off of waivers, did they?
Who? Komarov?
Andrew Ladd? Ladd was on waivers 2 days ago.
No, nobody's been claimed. There were some guys got claimed in the NHL, but I don't think many guys that were claimed. I didn't look at any of the cap hits or any of the guys that got claimed, but none of the Isles.
They were all very minor deals.
Yeah, it looked like it. I would imagine so. So yeah, we had a whole bunch of guys go through the waivers. Komarov went through waivers today. There's no one's taking those guys. Essentially, one other thing was Casey Zekas got what looked like got hurt in one of the last scrimmage before the season started. And it turns out like he's okay skating today. It was 2 days ago. So it was a little worrisome because you're like, well, that's not great. Arm, hand thing, skates off, it doesn't come back in. But skating again today, hopefully it was a good thing. Is just probably a stinger or something. But they're not. There's like no information about injuries. There's no video of the scrimmage. So it's kind of like a dead week, and I'm kind of glad this is the last day of it because it's been like so bizarre how there's been like almost zero information. I've just been listening to like the audio of the various interviews from all the players, and actually the last thing I'll say is Ilya Sorokin. He had his first interview today with the team and all the media, and he spoke okay English. It was surprising actually. He was able to answer all the questions in English. Not great, but he had some help with he obviously had some help from his translator trying to translate some of the local New York media guys because they can't speak slow enough for anybody that's like barely knows English. So that was interesting to watch. But otherwise, that's pretty much the week. I think everyone's ready to go, and we'll talk about a little more in the later of the show.
Yeah, I think we're everybody's ready to go. Steve, Devils?
Pretty big week for the Devils. Vatanen signed 1 year, $2 million. pretty surprising that they picked him back up. He was a solid player, but I feel like they had enough guys on the back end. I guess they're just looking for more depth. He's expected to be a third pairing guy.
Is he good in the weight?
Will
Is he good in the
Butcher.
weight room? Is he good in the weight room? Is he going to show the young
No.
guys how to work out and get ready?
He's a gym rat.
Only moronic organizations do stuff like that.
Hey,
Obviously the big news this week, Bratt signed finally 2 years, $5.5 million total. So a lot lower than I think what everybody thought he was going to get. And now he is also having his visa issues. No one?
I get it.
Okay. Not only that, obviously, once he finally gets over here, he's got to wait the 7 days and the 4 negative tests before he can get on the ice. The word going on Twitter is it might take 10 days for him to get a visa.
really?
Yeah, that's
I
what
can get a Discover card so much faster.
You should have got a MasterCard.
Fuck.
Can't they
There are
expedite
other-
the shipping or something?
Yeah.
Come on, you had
Okay,
the
so-
MasterCard joke there.
Moving
I've
on,
been
the other
pre-approved.
big news this week was the players that went on waivers to get them onto the taxi squad. Everybody on the Twitter's verse was surprised to see Nick Merkley's name on that list.
Who is Nick
it was
Merkley?
Actually, Nick Merkley was one of the players that they acquired in the Taylor Hall deal to Arizona.
Small forward
you know,
for
bottom-
the 76ers.
No.
Oh.
Bottom 6 forward, played really well towards the end of last season, played really well overseas, and was having a really good camp. I think it was a very shrewd move by Fitzgerald to put him on waivers that day when everybody else went on waivers. Because it was, you know, if you're going to take Nick Merkley, then you're not going to have a chance to get somebody else that's on that huge list of players if you wanted him. So he wound up passing through this more, finally, and looks like he's going to be on the taxi squad.
Nick Merkley.
Nick Merkley.
Nick Merkley. You have to write that name down.
Hoping he can be like our pest player, get in the face of everybody else like Miles Wood does to the Rangers.
Fuck Miles Wood. But you don't even like Miles Wood.
Likes it when he
I
plays
know
the
you
Rangers.
don't like him.
Fucker
Maybe I'm
plays
going to
in-
start liking him because I know you don't like him.
Apparently, he's the only team he plays against is the Rangers.
Then he's going to have a fucking great year this year.
Well, see, there you have it. There you have. By the way,
8
Billy,
games, he's going to have a great year.
you were on fire tonight. By the way, keep it up.
Okay. I'm trying. Steve, use that voice again. I can keep it up for a while more.
Billy, please don't touch me back there.
Oh my
Oh.
god.
All right, we got super
God.
creepy.
Oh my god.
We're gonna need to put some kind of sticker on this thing. aren't we?
That's
All
the place where my bathing
Sort
suit
of it
covers.
is, right?
Everything's explicit. Don't you worry.
So,
All right.
so we're clear.
We're good.
All that's getting cut out.
What are you talking about? That's the intro this week. What are you talking about? Obviously, don't know us.
Wow, there goes all viewership.
Well, 7 of them are gone.
And so it was in
And
episode
how about
7
the
when
New
Nick
York
realized this
Lions?
podcast was not for him.
How was the New York Rangers week?
All in all, they've had a very uneventful camp, which I think has been fantastic.
Uneventful because it was uneventful, or uneventful because nobody was allowed
Well,
to watch?
nothing got
because
covered.
nobody was allowed to watch it, and the Rangers Twitter is again unacceptable. The way they finished the 2 scrimmages.
Oh no, but they're having that big chat on the the day
Tomorrow.
before,
Tomorrow.
the hour before the
I
game,
think
right?
they're doing it tomorrow, with JD and the coach, and so we'll have that tomorrow for sure. So it's fun. Mika Zibanejad was one of the players who did test positive for COVID. He had all asymptomatic things. He would never really felt ill, and he's back and playing. It's a question mark whether he'll be ready for opening night or not. But one of the things coming out was Buchnevich had an amazing camp, and why wouldn't he? He's in a contract year. Kind of expect those guys who were in a contract year to have good years. He's one of those guys. He's coming off his entry-level deal. He's on a bridge deal right now, and he's restricted at the end of this year with arbitration rights. So I'm sure he's going to have a great year and a wonderful story. Kayandre Miller makes the club. Not only makes the club, but he's in the top 4 defense for the Rangers. They tried with Tony DeAngelo on the left-hand side. That was a trial by fire, and turned out to be a dumpster fire. And Kayandre Miller stepped in, and he and Truba appear to have some balance, and we'll see when we get started whether that is true or not. But very good story, and again, very uneventful camp. But how would we know, right? If not for the beat writers with Vince and Carp and Colin Stevenson, we would have never have seen anything in camp. So to the beat writers, thank you very much for all the hard work that you did. We appreciate you.
They never closed down the facility, right? No. After he tested positive?
No, I think he tested positive when he initially got there, when they were doing those first
okay.
When they were doing, or actually when probably one of those first 4 tests you had to pass when you came over from Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he failed during that time, because they were very specific about him getting it, but they didn't provide a lot of details on the interview that I saw with him. But again, uneventful camp. Just want to get things going. We've had enough time talking about camp, and even before there was a deal in hockey, and now we're at the eve of the season. Let's get going. Game on. Season preview time for each team.
Do it.
Yeah. Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Same order.
Oh, same order?
Okay.
All right. Who's next then?
Billy.
What are we preview? Are we previewing where we think everybody's going to land in the division, like standings wise?
Well,
or are we just...
those are predictions. Predictions for later. Just give a season preview of your team. Line combos. Who's going to have a good year? Who's not going to have a so good year? What other interesting facts and however you want to bitch and moan, go for it on the season.
So the Pittsburgh Penguins broke camp, and they've got their line combinations set based on what we were seeing in the most recent practices. On the top line, you're going to have Crosby, obviously at center, with Gensel and Rodriguez. Now Rodriguez there to fill in as long as Kapanen's out. They do like Rodriguez. Is going to be nice for him to get a chance to see if he could gel right away with that line, but probably is not going to be there for too long. The second line is Malkin with Zucker and Rust. I really like this line combination. Based on the last few years, Malkin's had guys skating on his wing like a Phil Kessel or something like that, which turned ugly quick. Malkin Malkin has his troubles with his mental approach to the game at times, and makes some piss poor mistakes. And he's got a couple of really good, responsible line mates there with him that I think are going to have his back. I'm hoping that keeps him maybe somewhere on the plus side of a plus minus, which would be a huge lift for the Penguins overall if they have a second line that's not a minus. And then if they can kind of keep him out of trouble and he can still contribute on the power play, then that makes the team all that much better and more effective through the first 2 lines.
I saw an interview with Malkin today on the Penguins Twitter posted it, and he said he's 100%. He's ready to go. He just, again, like everybody else, just wants the season to get going. But he said he feels like he's 100%, and he's excited about the season. I think that's what you want to hear from him, is that he's excited about the season and wants to get going.
Oh yeah, and I've heard that exact same interview with him the last 5 years. So just
have you? I mean, all right. Like, I was trying to be optimistic, pal. All right.
Every season they talk about how hard he worked in his off season, and whatever he did in Russia, he's always back and healthy and ready to go. And to be fair, last season last season he had a tremendous first half, and whether it was injuries or fatigue catching up with him, I don't know what catches up with him, because we never know what happens to these players, what their injuries truly are. But it fell off, and so it's just a matter of, we know he's a good player when he's at 100%. How long is he going to stay at 100%? Then going into the third line, we've got Jankowski between McCann and Tanev, and there's some good. Tanev's a good defensive player, like his grit there. McCann, that's going to be a good little sandpapery kind of line, with some ability to put some pucks in the net there as well. And then the fourth line looking like Lafferty, Bluger, and Savoie for the start. And one of these guys will get displaced by Kapanen in his return. Somebody presumably on that third or fourth line. Not sure who just yet, but that with Kapanen, that is their 13 players that are 13 forwards, I should say, that are on the roster. Going back to the defense, the eight, there's 8 defensemen on the roster. So your first pairing is Letang with Dumoulin. Should be more of the same from those guys. Letang, has been less effective, I think, offensively over the last couple of years. Great on the power play, but doesn't add as much at regular strength, at even strength offensively as he used to. But not so much of a defensive liability that he doesn't belong there on the first line. Is a guy who's had some of those kind of mental lapses like Malkin has at times too, but usually holds it together enough to be a respectable first line pair guy. Second line is looking like Matheson and Marino. And then Pedersen and Ceci on the third line. And then their depth guys are going to be UC Ricola and Chad Ruedel. Again, a couple of veterans there in that role at this point. They've been around a little while. Still fairly, I think Ricola is still fairly young, but they've both been playing that depth role for a while. And in the season where, well, defensemen get beat up anyway, but with everything going on, you got to figure that those depth guys are going to get a lot of playing time, and having experienced guys back there is definitely a positive. They've played well in that role before. That brings us over to the taxi squad as it's defined right now. So they've got 3 forwards, 1 defenseman, and 2 goaltenders there. So the guys on the taxi squad at forward are going to be Anthony Angelo, Frederick Goudreau, and Drew O'Connor. Drew O'Connor, I mentioned last week, he really impressed in camp, and he's that New Jersey kid who's going to be around. And again, I think these guys on these taxi squads are going to figure to get a lot of playing time with all that's been popping up around with COVID and whatever else. You got to figure these guys are going to make their debut sooner than later in a season like this. On defense is a kid they like a lot, Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Saw him play in Wilkes-Barre last season as well. Was pretty impressed with what I saw. It was a 1-game sampling, but
I thought he was in Scranton.
Oh, you're right. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
And the goaltenders, they've got NHL veteran Maxime Legacy on their taxi squad, and their 4th goalie on the taxi squad is Alex Diorio, and the Diorio is spelled D''ORIO, and obviously if it was OREO, I'd have that jersey already, but
I believe it.
Unfortunately, he's with an I. So that's the Penguins out of camp, and I think we'll talk a little bit later about where I might expect them to land in this division. But as far as the roster goes, I think they did a good job with the team that they put together this offseason. That it's early for the approach of burning it down and rebuilding based on a couple of disappointing playoff years. I don't think there's any team out there that would shut the door on having guys like Crosby, Malkin, and Letang driving this thing. Even if realistically it's too late for that cup window, it would seem a little bit rushed and probably would not go over well with the fans if they really went full rebuild right now. So based on that, I like the guys that they brought in. I think Kapanen's going to fit in well with them, and I think they have a solid shot at getting somewhere into the middle of the standings there in this division. And that's
who's going to have a standout year for the Penguins this year.
It's going to be Crosby again. I think as Crosby's career progresses, he's going to prove to be pretty ageless the way he keeps his conditioning up. It's always going to be a matter at this point of how healthy he is overall. But I think his on-ice performance, I think he's going to be one of those people that we kind of admire for being kind of ageless. If he decides to hang on that long, it's really all up to him. But his vision and his conditioning and especially in his lower body, I think is going to stand out. It makes kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Jaromir Jagr in that sense. I mean, not that they played similarly at all, but just the way he keeps himself conditioned and does those squats and works that lower body. His legs are ridiculous, and I think that's what can make a player, be able to stick around long in this game, provided that he doesn't have any kind of serious injury.
Who's not having a good year?
Malkin, which is unfortunate because I just drafted him onto my fantasy hockey team. He was still available at like pick number like 55, and I'm like, okay, I guess.
Are you serious?
Yeah, in a
Oh
16
my God.
league. I mean, he was just out there forever, and I'm like, I'm going to put him out of his misery and take him. He's going to get me some power play points, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, overall, I'm just not that excited. I've seen him come to camp, raring to go many times in the past. Sometimes he's got a good start, but there's always a point in the season lately that he hits a rut and he doesn't escape. So how soon will that be? Maybe he'll get through a short season without doing it. I don't know, maybe. But my expectation is always going to be that he's going to do something silly out there, and it's going to go downhill.
I like the fact that you went on a limb for the guy who's going to have a good season is Crosby, and the guy who's going to have a bad season is Malkin. So you went on a limb on both of them. Good job.
I'm very creative. I'm going real deep into the roster. These are deep cuts, man.
Yeah. Well, I think you did a great job when you were talking about the roster. I'm excited to see the Penguins lose, but
Wow.
I'm excited to see what they have this year. But look, they're a team that could go, obviously one of two ways, and we'll find out very early which team it's going to be for sure. Nick, Icelanders.
The Icelanders are up. Yeah, so unlike the Penguins, Islanders have not released a final roster. Probably due to their LTIR,
Wasn't it
shenanigans they're pulling.
It had to be submitted today at 5:00, didn't it?
Wow, if they did, they didn't publish it. I mean, I've been looking, not out there. But nevertheless, the lines from the last practice pretty much seem to be what they're going to be going with on opening night. And so for the Isles, it's not really a big surprise on most of the lines, and it's really been the third line. It's been the big question marks where who's going to fit in next to Pajot. And so we got the first lines: Lee, Barzal, and Eberle. Barzal's obviously signed, so that was never in question, really. So
there's no issue with him.
Intact.
There's no issue with him for Thursday night. He's going to be ready to go.
Yeah, he took first practice. He took a puck to the face or a stick to the face immediately, which is apparently his MO. Just takes things to the face.
Well, we knew that. Amongst other things. But he also, before he did that, he scored on his first two shots of the scrimmage. He scored 2 goals.
He scored 2 goals. He came out on fire. He didn't. The team said he's same old Barzy. Didn't seem to miss a beat. His, I think he'll be fine this year. He's got to hit that consistency, and part of the discussions around it were, with the contract was that, he's setting himself up to really become a superstar in the league, if he can be more consistent, if he can lessen the turnovers, and make his game a more sound game every shift. He's a very good player in all aspects of the game, one of the best skaters in the league, but he's got to be able to be more consistent on every single shift to be that guy. So that's first line. Lee and Eberle, they've been playing with him last year. No surprises there. I'm hoping for a bounce back year for Barzy in terms of points. Hopefully, because he's playing the same guys and he knows the system, I don't think he'll have a lot of trouble getting going. And especially the first game being against the Rangers, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. A lot of fire in that game, from both sides.
I do too, by the way.
Yeah.
And look, that top line with Lee and Eberle and Barzal, I mean, they're a tough line for anybody to handle. The speed, the grit. I mean, you got everything there. So that's a tough line for any team to handle.
Yep. The second line you have is the Killer B line. You got Beauvillier, Brock Nelson, Josh Bailey. One of my favorite lines we've had in the team. Basically, just I think Beauvillier is going to step up hit another gear this year. If he does, it's going to set up that line and the rest of the team for a real good, making teams have a real hard time dealing with the 4 lines. Fourth line, I'll get to real quick. Martin, Cizikas, Clutterbuck, everyone knows what they do. Cizikas being healthy is huge. Clutterbuck being healthy is huge. The question mark with that line will be how long can all three of them stay healthy? It hasn't been they haven't been able to stay together on the ice for many games the last couple of years. So if they can stay together all year or relatively all year, that's a big deal. Hopefully Cizikas can he's more important to the line than the other two, in my opinion, just because he's a do everything guy, but he still likes to hit and try to be physical. And yeah, it's got him in trouble sometimes. So with that said, the third line is a big one. Pajot is going to be the center. Obviously, you give a guy $5 million a year, he's playing. The other two guys, it looks like from camp, the line mates looks like Bellows and Dalcol are probably going to be the two guys that start at least first game. It's hard to say if they're going to change that up for the opening night, but Twas was out there talking today that he thinks Bellows earned a spot for the first game, and then alongside Pajot. I thought Bellows was a candidate to take that spot, him and Wallstrom. I didn't think both would make it, and Bellows looks like the guy that's taking it. I think it's too hard to play two rookies on a third line of a team that's trying to compete for a cup. I don't think you can do it unless they're even if they're playing really well. Two rookies is a lot to ask for that line. So Bellows, and looks like Dalcol is going to be on the other side. He might get switched out for Komarov. We'll see. Maybe Johnson. I don't know. But those guys are just the fillers essentially. So the defense is pretty much no changes. Pulock, Letty Mayfield, Green and Dobson. Dobson being the rookie. But that was never really in question, those six. That was pretty much, there was no changes going to be happening there. Varlamov and Sorokin are not 1A, 1B right now. It's going to be Varlamov is going to be riding the stick a little bit for the first probably a few games. They're not sure when they're going to get Ilya in his first game yet. They're probably going to see if most likely it'll be either Varlamov gets shell shocked one game or just doesn't look good or whatever. But it sounded like they want to give each guy kind of runs. It's kind of like what they did with Robin Lehner and Grice when the two of them were when they were coming in. They both had they play a couple of games here and there, get a little bit of rhythm, switch back. So it sounds like they're going to start the season with Varley. Makes plenty of sense to do that. But it sounds like Sorokin's probably going to get a good number of games too. And so I was saying he's a guy I think that's going to surprise a lot of people. But I think it won't come till the second half of the season when he starts to really get accustomed to the smaller rink, the new coaches, two of the best goalie coaches in the world. And they're making a lot of tweaks on him very quickly. And that's the one thing he talked about was Mitch Korn and the other guy, I'm forgetting his name. But they basically he was talking about these small tweaks to his game that he normally doesn't really spend as much time on. And those things are what have pushed all the goalies since Twas has been here and Mitch Korn's been here to like an upper echelon, pushing them to top goalies in the league. So that's looking good. Taxi squad, it's hard to say. It looks like Komarov, Johnson, the guys are just going to fill in the third, fourth line spots. Maybe Andrew Ladd. I don't know if he's going to be buried or not. For defense, it looks like Thomas Hickey and probably Sebastian Aho as the two other maybe defensemen. I'm not sure. They're, like I said, they haven't put a thing out there that says these guys are definitely the guys on there. They waived a bunch of players. They can come up, they can come down. Schneider's probably the goalie they're going to keep on the taxi squad. And that's pretty much it. I think
you said Ladd is healthy, right? Ladd is healthy?
Yeah, he's healthy, but
he just doesn't fit into the plans of the Islanders and what they're doing now.
They've been, I think the problem is he could play, but I don't think he's not even in the top, bunch of stuff here. I think he's done. I think they're going to bury him. They're trying to get him. They're probably going to do something like LTIR fraud with him like next year. Likely, if they can't get rid of his contract, they're going to figure out something to get around the cap with Ladd. Ladd's injuries are, definitely
talk to the doctor, give him some phantom back problem or something.
Yeah, I'm not really the way that this is being handled. It feels like they're going to bury him completely. But that's what it is,
because the way you were describing the three lines, he doesn't fit anywhere on this lineup.
No.
It's hard to even put him into this lineup on the fourth line because you're not taking Martin or Cizikas or Clutterbuck out of the lineup just to put an Andrew Ladd to play at fourth line minutes. You're not doing it.
Yeah. So the spots that'll be filled or changed are the third line spots with Pajot, and that's going to be with injuries and trying different spots out. Komarov will probably come in. They'll probably put Johnson in for like the Ranger games here, like after maybe your second or third game. I think you're going to see a lot more of those guys in maybe the fourth, fifth, sixth games of all these series. I mean, these are going to get nasty. I think because you're going to see these guys like too much. So I think you're going to start seeing those kind of guys coming in later in the season. That's not Ladd. That's not a bruiser. He can't come in and do anything about it.
You might want to rethink that and put him into those games so he does get hurt and goes on LTIR. Get him hurt as quick as you can.
Oh man, yeah, I don't know if I do that, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know. There's some other guys.
What do you think the goalie breakdown percentage of game wise is going to be at the end of the year?
I think it's going to be probably quarter of the game. I think quarter of the games to Sorkin. Yeah, I think a quarter. Okay. I think that's. I don't know. It's hard to say. It could be like a 60-40 split, but maybe that's like a best case scenario if he hits the ground running. I think he's gonna struggle with maybe a couple games, but not like struggle, but like he's not gonna hit his stride until he gets some
until the second half.
He's been with the team for the since last year in the bubble, practicing and just kind of hanging out and learning. So he's getting comfortable, but he hasn't really played in NHL games. They don't have any tape on him in the smaller rink. And so kind of they're talking about is he needs to get a couple of those games in. They'll see a little more about his game and how it translates better to the, and what they need to work on. So I think you'll see some of those flaws happen in a couple of games early, and then they'll work on it. And by the end of the season, I think he'll start to really be a real asset to the team. I mean, I hope it's earlier, but I think he's going to have, he might struggle a little early depending on how it goes.
Standout player for the Islanders this year? Who's the guy?
I want to say Pajot. Honestly, I think he's the biggest thing against Pajot being the standout is that his line mates are going to be kind of rotating likely unless Bellows really sticks the spot.
Well, unless he finds chemistry. When he finds chemistry with those guys, I'm sure they're going to keep him in the lineup. Yeah,
and they could move guys around in the second and third lines. They've done it before. Even the first and second, sometimes Trotz will move things around. But I think Pajot and I think Pelech is going to just shine again. I mean, the guy's good. He's the reason. If he's not healthy, we're dead. But if he's our top defenseman, even though the shine part about it is you don't notice him until you look at the stats. You look at the other team stats. You look at like who he was playing against and how they did. And then when you see those guys start hitting a black hole, then you start to notice, hey, this guy's he's doing pretty good his job. And so I think those are the guys. I think in the reverse, I think.
Yeah, you can't say Andrew Ladd. You can't say Ladd. You got to go to a different player.
Yeah, I've been pretty vocal that Dal Cole I think is probably I'd rather see him off the roster just because I don't think his game translates well for the team. I think his speed is not there, and he just doesn't have the work ethic to get his skating to a position where he's good enough to deal with. I think he's okay third, fourth liner, but I think he's gonna be even worse with Pajot and Bellows flying around the rink, personally. But we'll see. I think him and as much as I hate to say it, I think Bailey might struggle a little bit. Just maybe he hits a little bit of some of that. Him or Lee could hit some time where they just aren't producing. Those are my guesses. I think they're all going to do pretty well. Honestly, I think it's going to be a pretty good year for the Isles.
Cap Friendly has Komarov listed as a right wing, left wing, and center. So what is his true position?
He plays anywhere they tell him to play.
Forward. Is that right?
Essentially.
He's a forward.
He's a forward. So you could probably see him taking some time away from Dal Cole, probably even though he was waived and all that.
So yeah, Komarov is waived because they were, if anybody will take him, they tried trading him, they couldn't move him. It's just the cap hit. That's the problem. He's extremely versatile, but he doesn't have a real true role in the team other than fill-in. And he's a $3 million a year fill-in, which is, well, if you have the money for it, that's great. But We don't, and he doesn't fit on the fourth line with our fourth line. That's the
he-
major issue. Also,
He also has a modified no trade, by the way, too. 17 no trade.
yeah.
That's
The
rough.
problem.
That's rough.
Problem. I don't think that's the problem as much as it is that no one wants to take the money of any.
No, but it's not helping. It's not helping the
Doesn't help
situation
you.
either.
Sure.
No,
sure,
not at
I know.
all.
Yeah.
For
But,
sure not.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what and there's also this other kid, Timashov, who apparently still hasn't signed as an RFA. We traded for him for like not much to Detroit. He was going to be basically a similar guy to Komarov, playing a couple of different spots in that third role potentially. But I think the problem there is that he hasn't signed because of the cap issues, and he was practicing early, but then he stopped practicing with the team. So either contract or they didn't announce an injury, but you figure they would have announced the injury by now. So unless they have a last minute, signing at, I don't know when they can even when the last minute they can even do that, or if there's any, I'm not sure if there's anything after 5 o'clock rosters locked in. I'm not sure if there was some sort of window afterwards or whatnot, but he could come in maybe a little bit later. Maybe it's some reason why he's not signed that they didn't talk about yet.
As much as I love talking about the Islanders, one name that I really thought you were going to say is Oliver Wahlstrom, and you haven't said his name yet. I mean,
oh yeah, you know what? I didn't actually. So Wahlstrom, the problem I think I mentioned earlier was that Bellows and Wahlstrom were both kind of going for the same spot. They play different positions on the wing, but the problem is I don't think they could have really put both guys on that line at the same time and comfortably, because of the way that they've set the lines up. Even if you switched him and Bailey around, I don't think it's worked out. I think they looked at him and said he's close, but maybe he needs a little more time. He did miss some time when he was playing off. He did have an injury. He missed some of the extra time he was playing in December. So November, December time frame, he missed. He hit a nasty shoulder injury. But even with that, I think it's just that it's a game of inches here, and they're like, well, we want to look at Bellows right now. So I don't see that he could definitely come up and play during the year. I just don't know if it's going to
give him top line in Bridgeport as opposed to third line in New York.
Well, it's not that. It's does he sit on the taxi squad? I mean, maybe.
No.
You know what I mean? So that's the problem. I think he's going to go to the bridge, and they'll call him up when they can. So I think that's also the consideration is like, if you keep Bellows on the team, I don't know if he's waiver eligible or eligible or not.
No, they're on entry level contracts, so they don't eat waivers.
Yeah. But they're going to give him the shot at least and see, and then they can always put them down, but to the first line. But do you remember when the HL starts?
February 5th.
Yeah, so they got some time. I mean,
I would imagine they're going to start for the AHL.
They're going to do a 10-day camp.
Right?
Yeah, they have to do a camp.
It's not super long, but at least for the intermediate time. But
one other thing that was announced this week is that with the OHL, WHL not really starting up, they're going to allow those kids to play in the AHL this year.
Not only. They got to officially cancel. No, OHL the CHL's got to have those leagues officially cancel their season before those guys are allowed to play in the AHL.
I thought that was a done deal already.
No.
Okay, maybe
some of those leagues are going to start up, are hoping to start up again at the end of February.
Okay, then I won't talk about it.
Please don't.
But what we will talk about, unfortunately, is the Devils season preview.
Let's talk about the New Jersey Devils. So really, this preview could be a tale of two different teams, because with Heischer being hurt and not starting the season, and Bratt having his issues with
what are his issues?
He's got visa issues. And Vatanen also having visa issues.
My God, they really should just sign it for American Express at this point.
I mean, I could give you a lineup.
Worse credit than Evander Kane.
God.
What is their oh man. What is their credit score? 480? My God.
Hey,
so
it's my SAT score. Back off.
I could give you the opening night roster, but it's going to be different than the team that we see 7 games into the season. So I'm just going to go with the long term.
They haven't published a roster yet either, have they?
They haven't published an official roster yet, no, but I would just go off of lines that they've used in practice to develop a line scheme.
Sure.
So it looks like Hughes is going to center Gusev and Palmieri. as the quote unquote top line, which I think is going to be outstanding for Jack Hughes. He played all last season and didn't have many good complementary players on his wings. He had Simmons for a long period of time on his wing. So that'll just tell you the talent that he was playing alongside last year. So having a scorer like Palmieri and a playmaker like Gusev on his wings is going to be really big. Plus, those 14 extra pounds are going to come in handy. He's winning a lot more faceoffs in camp. Not that he's going up against, top talent, but the fact that he's doing well in camp on his faceoffs is a step in the right direction. He's sure center in the second line with Bratt and Andreas Johansson as his wings. It's going to be interesting seeing how Johansson makes the transition from Toronto to New Jersey. I don't remember seeing him. I don't remember much about him when he was playing with Toronto. Apparently he was playing on the third with Austin Matthews. I mean, if you're playing with a player like Austin Matthews, you got to be pretty fucking good, right? So we'll see.
Think so.
We'll see. Then we got Zajac centering Zaka and Wood. That's a really interesting lineup. You got two defensive-minded players with Wood, who's just going to skate in a straight line as fast as he can up and down the rink. And then Boqvist centering Kukokkinen and Sharangovich for the all-European fourth line. I really got to see something from Boqvist this year to consider him a player on the team long-term. Sharangovich was really playing well over at the KHL, so hopefully he can keep that up. And then that leaves players like Nathan Bastian and I think Nick Merkley on the taxi squad as forwards. On defense, they're going to have Subban and Murray, Ty Smith and Severson, and then Vatanen and Butcher. And I think they're also going to have two defensemen on their taxi squad, Carrick and Kulikov. I think Tennyson's bound for the AHL. They keep trying him in the lineup, but I don't think he's got the skill to play in the NHL. Which brings me to an issue that I left out during our weekend review, and that was the untimely retirement of Corey Crawford.
Was there any reasons for it, or was it just personal? That's
personal reasons is all they've given out. A lot of rumors flying around. One is that he had a friend who had concussion issues and contracted COVID, and the COVID symptoms were elevated even higher because of the concussion issues. So I think maybe he was worried that if he played this season, he was more susceptible to catching COVID because of all the travel and stuff. And because he does have some concussion issues, he was worried about his health. Serious considerations that he was putting in because of COVID.
Yeah, well, you can't fault him for any of that.
Yeah. So that bumped Scott Wedgwood up to be the backup goalie. Now, they just picked up Eric Comrie off of waivers, which I guess would then send Wedgwood to the taxi squad. Because if Comrie doesn't make the NHL roster, he's got to go back on waivers.
Right,
so
in order to be assigned to the taxi squad.
In order to be on the taxi squad. So they could play the game and put him on waivers and see if anybody takes him if they want Wedgwood as the backup. I think maybe there was an agreement with Wedgwood made that, hey, you're going to be on the taxi squad, and maybe he doesn't want to play the NHL minutes. I don't know. He's getting up there in age. Maybe he just wants to ride out, the contract.
He's 28 years old. He's getting up there in age.
Is he really only 28?
Yeah.
I feel like he was with the Devils 10 years ago.
I think it was AJ.
Crazy.
Was he? Wait, hold on. He was with Albany in 2012, 2013. So 8 years.
Wow.
I'm going on 9. So there you have it.
20. So he was 20 years. I thought he was older when he made his debut with the Devils.
Nope.
Well, good for him.
Just trying to play that contract out.
Just playing the contract out so he can get to retirement age. The fuck do I know? Player that I really am excited to watch this year, obviously, is Jack Hughes. I hope we start to see him turn into the player he's going to be long term, especially with Gusev and Palmieri. Gusev is another player that I'm really looking forward to watching this year. If he doesn't take that step forward, I could see him being traded by the trade deadline. If he does take that step forward, I could possibly see Palmieri being traded by the trade deadline.
Well, is that not too much defensive prowess on that line?
No, they're definitely
Those
going to be a
guys.
run and gun team. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So especially with
yeah.
the system Lindy Ruff is instituting, where he wants one defenseman to join the rush or join the offensive play at all times. So I definitely think they're going to be a feast or famine team.
Yeah, outscore them as much as you can.
And for my player who I don't think is going to live up to expectations, it's going to be Jesper Bratt. I just think the contract holdout, the visa issues, and the delay in getting him into the lineup is really, he's just never going to catch his bearings.
Little
Was it
PK
2 million a year?
and Miles Wood didn't like each other this week, huh?
They made up after the game, just a little. They called it a sibling rivalry
Big hugs.
Sibling rivalry.
because they're teammates.
No.
Sibling rivalry.
I get it. I get it. Nick, did you ask something that I stepped on as usual?
Yeah, I was gonna ask what was it 2 million a year? For,
2 million
Brat?
for Vatanen.
Brat?
Brat was a 2 years at 5.5.
Oh, I mixed them up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.5. Yeah.
Again, I thought it was going to be in the 3.5 range. So to get him for under 3 is outstanding.
And then you said Jack Hughes, I think last week you said he put on like 15 pounds.
14 pounds
Yeah.
in the 310 days between games. He put on 14 pounds of muscle. And I think, like Bill said with Crosby, I think it was a lot of it's in that lower half, hopefully to help him win those battles on the boards and stay on his feet and not get knocked off the puck so easily.
Yeah. I mean, like the first year Tavares, he couldn't stay on his feet. He was just blown over by everybody. And it was until next year he actually was able to stand. And then the third year is
when he really made the step forward.
His skating was a huge problem. I mean, they really undersold how badly his skating was.
Oh, okay.
It took him a couple of years to really you have to do a lot of power skating drills to get through, just the bad habits he developed. But once the third year was really, it really kicked in. Now, I don't know how bad. I don't know if Zach's.
No, I mean, you can only take so much from a scrimmage, but Jack Hughes was just flying around the ice during the 3 scrimmages I watched.
Well, that's a big difference.
He played those games as if they were real games too. You could see the fire that he had. He made one bad pass, and you heard him just scream "fuck" and slam the door on the bench when he went back.
And then those guys, if you can skate real well, and that's a huge leg up in the NHL. So maybe for him it'll be this year because he gets used to everything, he puts on extra weight,
right?
Get used to the bigger bodies and how the game works, and that I can see it. I can definitely see it happening if he's got the skating ability.
Training all off season against his 2 brothers probably helped him a lot. They're both defensemen, right? You got. And Luke is, he's expected to be a top 10 pick. So fingers crossed.
No.
Ranger land?
No. Hey, well, before we get into the Ranger season preview, so I saw the Penguins and the Devils, they both played on their arena ice in at least one exhibition game or scrimmage. Islanders played strictly at their training center, as did the Rangers. They didn't skate at the Garden at all. So I'm hoping tomorrow's practice and Thursday's morning skate will both be at the Garden so that they get used to the ice, all that other stuff. So I hope that happens.
Would they ever do a morning skate at the practice facility and then have a game? Have they done that in the past?
They have done that in the past.
Really?
Obviously for home games. Yeah.
Huh.
So for the Rangers, I mean, their lineup to me on paper in the beginning of the year with all the hype is pretty stacked. Your first line with Zibanejad, Kreider, and Buchnevich. Or 1A, if you want to call them. I think Kreider's going to have another good year. I don't know if Mika's going to have the same year that he had last year. If he does, then he's on his way for a very large contract. Not that he's not already, but Buchnevich is probably one of the bigger question marks on that line. If he has the year like the training camp he had, then I think they're in really, really good shape. But if he doesn't, you can see him get demoted down to, third, even maybe fourth line minutes with some of those other guys moving up and some line juggling going on. So I think Buchnevich is that kind of question mark on at least that first line. But the other guys on that line are, you know what you're getting with Zibanejad, you know what you're getting with Kreider. Second line or the other 1A, you get Strome, Panarin, and Kakko. Not very defensive minded is this line, sort of like the Hughes line. But you're going to get a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and a lot of hockey smarts here. Kakko on this line, I don't know necessarily that he does fit on that line, but they're going to give it a shot. And I love the fact that they're going to start that way. You got balance, you got attacking speed. What you don't really have on that line is defense. So we'll see what happens with that. The third line with Phil Hedl, Alexei Lafreniere, and Gauthier. I like this line size. Lafreniere's been hitting a lot. He shoulder checked Hayek in practice yesterday, and if he hits guys like that in real games, I'll be pretty happy just to see him playing on the board. And he scored a really nice goal, albeit in a scrimmage, but it's still nice. And it's good that he's developing chemistry with Heedle and Gauthier. I kind of like also that he's starting on the third line as opposed to plugging him in on the top two lines. Takes kind of the pressure off him a little bit, and that all the focus is going to be on the Zibanejad line, the Panarin line, and he can kind of fall into his groove a little bit and hopefully develop into what everybody's saying he's going to be. Fourth line, you got Howden, Centerin, Lemieux, and either Rooney or Phil DiGiuseppe. I think DiGiuseppe's going to get the start there, with Rooney being kind of that 13th forward and in and out of the lineup, depending upon games. I think we'll see some time in the first two games, but I think Rooney and DiGiuseppe are going to kind of give a cycle. Defense, but look, I love these line combinations to start. Are they going to stick? Probably not. But I think on paper, I think they're really, really good to start. On defense, you have K'Andre Miller starting with Jacob Trouba. Miller, who made the club with a great camp, who, as David Quinn called him, a praying mantis in camp. I think that's a good term. We'll see how well that he and Trouba balance each other out, but he said Trouba has taken him under his wing, so we'll see how everything works. I think they're a better fit with each other as opposed to D'Angelo and Trouba, by the way. I know we were talking about balancing last week and offensive versus defensive minded, but I think Miller's going to be that defensive presence to have Trouba have the freedom a little bit to do what he wants to do. And for that type of money, give Trouba the freedom that he needs. Your second defense pairing with Lindgren and Fox. These are two rookies that are coming back for their sophomore season, and I hope they don't suffer from the sophomore slump. I hope they're just as good as they were in the first year, if not better. So all signs are indicating that they are that they certainly have improved. The third defensive pair is where you're going to have the struggle. You have Jack Johnson with Tony D'Angelo. I don't know what we're going to get out of that pair. You got Brendan Smith
Controversy
in there.
Yikes.
Yeah, if you're gonna if they're gonna be out there against the other team's top forwards, hopefully Igor or Georgie can stop the multiple pucks, and swallow them.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers is right. So but look, Jack Johnson's my odds-on favorite for first goal of the year, by the way. So we'll see what happens. He did score the first goal of training camp. Let's see if he can carry that on. Mark Stahl scored the first goal for last year, so it did come from a defenseman. In goal, if Shesterkin lives up to the hype and what he did last year with Georgie as his backup, give me a better tandem in the East.
You can't.
In tandem.
I wouldn't limit it to the East.
But I don't know on the island that you have something that yet, because we don't know what Sorkin's going to be. He very well may be that guy. Very well may be that. And that's the conversation that we have. But
maybe at the end of the year. But I think you're right.
Yeah.
Start the year for sure.
Again, on paper. So we'll see what happens. Exactly. And what Quinn said is, listen, we don't have a starting goaltender yet. Whoever's got the hot hand is going to play. Georgie's had a great camp. Igor's had a great camp. So this is all pointing in the proper direction. So let's see where it takes us. The guys who I think are going to be standout guys this year, I've been saying it all off season that I think Heedle's got to be the guy who takes the step in the next step. He's only 23 years old. This is his fourth season with the Rangers. Believe that he started I can't believe he's been on the team this long, but I think he's got to take that step. And I think Gauthier and Lafreniere are the wings to at least get him there. And even if you bring Buchnevich back a line and put Lafreniere on that first line with Mika and Chris Kreider, I still think Buchnevich will give Heedle the opportunity to score goals, be a playmaker that he needs to be in this year. This is a huge year for Heedle. It is a contract year for him, and it's just a huge question mark year for him, whether he's going to take that next step and we can look to trade Reinstrom. The player who I think is not going to have such a good year, I think still is Buchnevich. I think Buchnevich is a guy who you're going to see trading deadline be traded. Even if the Rangers are kind of in the hunt a little bit, I think he's going to fall back a little bit, and I think he's going to be that guy who's going to get moved either at the deadline this year or sometime in the offseason, because they are coming up to the point where they don't have room for Lafreniere on the first two lines, and that's got to change. That is going to change. I don't think that they're going to move Kakko because he's still way too young. He's only 19 years old this year. Buchnevich is that guy who is restricted free agent with arbitration rights, who should get a salary increase this year, and is a guy who they're going to be looking to move and replace with some guy who can play the third line next year for about half of his salary, so they can invest the other money in maybe more defensemen, because that's looks to me, again, this is all on paper, where they're going to need to look next year for at least that third pair defensive line. But you also have young kids who might be ready to step up and take that place with Lindquist and Matthew Robertson. So we don't know what's going to happen and see what's going to happen. But I can say that Hedo's going to have the breakout year. Buchnevich is going to fall back and eventually get traded.
Did you mention a taxi squad? Okay.
Sorry. I think I missed that before I went into the two players. Taxi squad, you got Morgan Barron, who did have a good camp and who was kind of battling Brett Howden for that fourth line center role. Barron's still on his entry level contract. Howden's another guy who's on the last year of his entry level contract. So it will be very interesting to see what you get out of him. He took Mika's spot in between Buchnevich and Kreider for the two scrimmages while Mika was out, and that line dominated. So I'm not saying it's because of Howden was their centerman, but they didn't skip a beat with Howden as their centerman and not having Zibanejad there. So Howden certainly earned the spot over Barron. Benedetto, Blackwell more than I would know him, Steve. He played with the Devils last year, right?
Blackwell.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about this guy. I thought he was a Devil last year. I could be sorely mistaken.
Rooney.
Really? No, yeah. Was it Rooney? Maybe I'm thinking. Yeah, he was a Nashville Predator. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. I think I am thinking about Rooney and Kincaid. Kincaid's going to be the goaltender. I think we kind of knew that. And he's also going to be the guy they're going to expose in the expansion draft. Hayek. Hayek was one of the key pieces. He was the guy that the Rangers had to have in the deal for Ryan McDonough and JT Miller. And he's just never really blossomed into the player that they thought. They gave him the opportunity at the beginning of last season to play with Trouba. It just never worked out, and he got hurt. So unfortunately, it hasn't really worked out for him, but he's still going to see time. I mean, you got Jack Johnson and Tony DeAngelo as your third line defenseman. I think Hayek is going to get some time to play here. Matthew Robertson as well, entry level kid who unfortunately could not play for Team USA this year for COVID reasons, will also get time somewhere in there. So there's a Rangers season preview. Lots of excitement, lots of hype on paper. Really good team.
Do you think DeAngelo finishes this season with the team?
Oh boy. If they're in the playoffs, he does, and they trade him in the offseason. If they're out of the playoffs, they trade him.
And then one other question. You were very happy that they were going to protect Lafreniere by putting him on the third line.
Yeah, to start, absolutely.
But you're fine with Kayandre Miller being your top pair defenseman. Because of what you saw in the bubble? They saw in the bubble?
But what they saw in the bubble and his camp this year, and plus, he's not a number one overall pick. He doesn't have a whole hell of a lot of pressure on him.
You're a rookie playing in a top pairing role. You got pressure.
Yeah, but I
don't care where you're drafted.
But to start, I think Lindgren and Fox are the top pair defensemen and the shutdown guys. And Miller and Trouba are your second line guys, your second deep pairing. So yeah, I mean it's a good argument, but again, Kandre Miller is not a number one overall draft pick who has a ton of pressure on him to perform right away like Lafreniere does.
Not as young as Lafreniere either.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'd say they're similar, different, but they're both going to be in the limelight for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so it'll be interesting to watch.
Well, I'm just happy that DeAngelo's not with Trouba, because that was they got lit up in the first scrimmage as a defensive pair, and right then and there they got broken up. They were in fact, they were in different groups in camp after that happened. So it was certainly a nightmare for sure. So those are our season previews for our teams. So I think we're going to finish up by doing some predictions, and let's start with the East.
Please. The Mass Mutual East.
I'm sorry, my bad, Billy. The Mass Mutual, right? Mass Mutual Eastern Division.
That's our sponsor. Yeah.
So I'm going to start off. I'm going to take us all the way to the order that they're going to finish and how the playoffs are going to filter out for the East. The rest of the divisions don't really care about all that much. I'm going to give you the order plus the top team who's going to make it out of the division to the Final Four of the NHL, and then we'll get into conference champions and eventually Stanley Cup champions. So let's start in the East first. I have the Flyers. Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
Welcome.
Finishing first in the East. I have the Islanders finishing second because of their goaltender, because of their balance.
Uh-oh. Freeze up? Oh,
That's
no.
it. There's only 2 teams going to make the
Two
playoffs
teams.
in the East. That's
He
it.
did.
We can only pay for 2.
I have
Mass
the Rangers.
Mutual.
I really.
You
I
fro-
can hear
no.
everybody.
Yeah.
Am I back? Am I
You're
back?
back.
Yeah, you're
you
back.
froze
You're
about
back.
30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Right
Start
after
30
the
minutes
Islanders.
ago, I have to
You said-
start with my season preview again. But I heard you asking me all these questions. So Islanders number 2, the Rangers number 3, Boston number 4, Pittsburgh 5, Washington 6. There's my surprise. New Jersey number 7, Buffalo number 8. I just don't think Washington has the goaltending to do anything in the East this year, and I think Chara is a gigantic bust on the back end playing with them. So I have 4 teams making the playoffs. I have Philly versus Boston, 1-4 matchup, and I have Islanders Rangers in the first round. So
That'd be
I have
glorious.
I have the Flyers. Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the
Moving
Flyers.
on past Boston, and sadly, I have the Islanders in a 7-game series, beating the Rangers in 7, as their kind of learning curve.
Did you freeze again? Oh no.
Freezing again.
So you have the Islanders winning
Wait,
7
while
in a
he's
row?
frozen, raise your hand if you're surprised he's got the Rangers making the playoffs this year.
I just want to know.
You
I just want to
froze
know
there,
what's,
buddy.
You should. Yeah,
what's your
I know,
prediction
but
for
you
the
should-
score of Game 7?
I have
Who's
no
going to get the
fucking-
game-winning goal?
I don't know.
I mean,
But-
you're going
but
into
Phil-
immense
but
detail.
fuck the-
I just
the Fly-
just wondering how this all played out.
The Flyers come out. They beat the Islanders, and the Flyers are the team that comes out of the East. Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
Wow.
Fuck the Flyers. Do you want me to continue, or do you want me to?
Well,
let you do
let's,
the
let's
East?
all
go around
let's
the
do
East.
let's do these. Let's do
Let's
these.
do the
the
East.
East, yeah,
All right,
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
got fuck the Flyers coming out. I
Yep.
want to see what you guys have for the East. Go for it.
All right. Well, when I started looking at the East, 4 teams popped out to me that have a chance to be in first place. So to me, those are the 4 teams that I guess I'm picking to go to the playoffs. And the 4 teams that I think could finish in first place are the Bruins, the Capitals, the Flyers, and the Islanders. So out of those 4 teams, I unfortunately I think I agree with Tom that the Flyers are going to come out of the East. I think
Fuck the Flyers.
fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
It seems primed to be their year to take that step. And I don't. Those 4 teams aren't necessarily. Obviously, they're not. I'm not sure that those 4 teams are going to be the top 4 teams. It's just that those are the 4 teams that I feel like have a chance to win the division. So that's just kind of how it fell for me. I mean, but you look. I wouldn't be surprised if any team in this division makes the playoffs in a shortened season. I think every team in this division has flaws, and things could kind of snowball on them.
I'd be surprised if New Jersey makes the playoffs. I'm not just saying that so we can rag on Steve, or even Buffalo for that matter. I'd be pretty surprised if either one of those guys made the playoffs.
I think the consensus is it's a 6-team race for 4 spots. Absolutely.
I'm leaning that way myself, but all Buffalo and Jersey in a shortened season need to make the jump is to get their defense straightened out.
Or just a hot Blackwood
Or
steals
a hot
steals 8 or
goaltender for
10
sure.
games, and there's
Definitely.
the difference.
And
So
I'm
that's
not
why-
saying they're not going to be competitive on a daily basis, because I think they're going to be very competitive. I just don't think that they're going to come out of the games as on the winning end.
And I think the Penguins, that I think looking back at last season makes an interesting case for the Penguins, because when you look at last season for the Penguins, they looked to all the world like an actual contender, not a favorite, but a contender in the Stanley Cup race until Game 59. And in Game 59, it fell off the edge of a cliff for them. And so this season, it's only 56 games.
Oh,
So, if history repeats itself a bit for them, maybe they will have enough staying power to make it in the playoffs. They haven't challenged for first place. The last time they finished in first place was 2014. They're not going to challenge for first place in this division. But if they hold off that kind of drop off, then they might take one of those places. And obviously, I think the Rangers, I'm just interested to wait to see if the Rangers can develop that top end talent. You know, the Shesterkin and Lafreniere and Kako. I mean, the upside there is tremendous, but they're not a great franchise for developing high end talent. I mean, you got
I agree with
over
you.
the last 20 years. And that's
Who
about
can
it.
tell? Who can tell? They always trade him away.
But listen, Billy, these are not your New York Rangers. This is not the organization you used to root for. This is a
I know, and
completely
that's why
different
I'm waiting to see if
organization
it's changed.
with JD and Drury. And I mean, look, it's just a different regime. And I think David Quinn is the right guy in the right situation. Do exactly just that.
I hope you're right, but is it different?
too.
It's different for sure, but is it going to be any better? That's what I mean. That they got to prove it. So that's what I think is going to happen in the East.
But at least you're not trading these guys away for guys who are way prime. At least you're giving them the opportunity to produce and to see what you are. And they're not trading freaking Tony Amonte for freaking Brian Noonan.
If you run it down, you got Lafreniere, Kako, Fox, Miller, and Shesterkin. Those 5. If you hit on 3 of those 5, you got an outstanding
team.
I got a 5-team race. I think you guys know who teams 8 and 7 are.
Yeah.
No, who?
I'm well aware. Move on to 6.
6 is unfortunately for Tom. I think the Rangers are going to be that 6th team. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to get.
It's a very popular spot for them. Yes.
I think their lack of defense, cohesion, and just relying on their goaltending and not having. I think that's going to be the downfall for them this year, because a lot of people have said it. It's not just the team, like our teams. I'm sure every team is looking at this way. As every game is a playoff game. They're all 4-point swings. They're only playing their teams in their division, and they're just every game is going to be 8 times you're playing these teams. I mean, it's a lot of games. Every intense game is going to have a big impact, and that means I think they're going to play more defensively, more like playoff games. And I think that's going to hurt the teams that don't have that defensive depth and that play that defensive style, especially in this division where you have 4 or 5. I think Pittsburgh's on the cusp. I think Billy's right. Like they could fall apart at the end. They could make it. I don't know. It's hard to say. And I think the Boston Bruins are going to be. They have a lot of question marks, but I think they're still going to be fine. Obviously, I think the Isles I think their biggest problem is going to be their health. Staying healthy was a major key last year, and we came back to the playoffs in the bubble healthy, and we had a run. But guys like Zizekas and Pelech are extremely important to the team. If they're not healthy, then it's going to be rough. And that you could say it for any team. I think that's going to be. There's no Tampa Bay in this division, so every team's going to be, I think, in that same kind of boat. I don't think anybody's super deep. Maybe Philly a little bit more than a couple other teams in this division, but that's my feeling. I think Washington will be interesting to watch too. I think that team's always dangerous, and even though I think they're slowly, just like the Penguins, slowly coming off their prime years, and this could be the year they finally drop off. I feel like we say that every year, and then they just do fine.
So who are the 4?
So yeah, I have the Flyers, Isles, Boston, and Washington as the 4 teams. Billy had the same teams as me, right? You Pittsburgh on the
Sure did.
I think that's the most likely, but you could switch Pittsburgh in, I think, with any one of those teams. And if there's a surprise, I think Buffalo's going to surprise early. I think they're going to rack up a bunch of points early and then just get smoked later in the season. That's my feeling, though.
Yeah, they've done that
Steven?
before too. Yeah.
Who's your pick to come out of the East?
I think it's the Isles, honestly. I think that if they can stay healthy, I think they have a good matchup against the Flyers. And while it went to Game 7 last season, they they should have put them out earlier. And to be honest, I think they're a better team. But again, health is a big important part of it. There's not going to be that big gap of the bubble between the playoffs and the regular season, and you're going to have to be ready to go. So there's like a full 80-game season. Think of it that way, right? Like 56 games plus another 20-something games. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. So
two Phillies and an Islander.
I think so.
You homer.
So I obviously have the same 2 bottom teams, New Jersey and Buffalo. I've got similar top teams in Philadelphia and Boston. And then my middle 4, and I think between the 4, it's going to be a 6 to 8 point difference from third
It
place
might
to
be
sixth
less
place.
than that.
It's gonna be close.
Yeah, I
So-
think it's gonna be less than that.
I got Washington third, Pittsburgh 4, Islanders 5, Rangers 6. Maybe I'm just, the guy who makes the prediction based on historical results. But I just think the deep run by the Islanders, I don't think they're going to stay healthy all season. So I do think they're going to take a step back. I think the Rangers are a team on the rise, but they're not there yet. I think Washington and Pittsburgh, even though they're the traditional mainstays in the playoffs, I think that experience is gonna get them to the third and fourth spot. And I also have Philly coming out of
Fuck the Flyers.
Mass
Fuck the
Mutual
Flyers.
West. Fuck the Flyers.
Yeah.
So real quick, the Honda Western Division, Tom, who you got?
I mean, Colorado's can sleep and not play McKinnon the entire year and come out of that and walk away. And no
Bill?
one's gonna even put up a contest.
You don't think Vegas is
Bill,
gonna put them
Honda
in?
West?
You don't
No.
think they're gonna compete?
No. Maybe
All right.
maybe in the playoffs, but not in the regular season. They're just gonna cakewalk through it.
I agree with Colorado being the top dog there, but I think Vegas will give them problems.
So
Anybody
out in the
else?
West, I got the so it is it's the Honda division in the West.
The
Is that
Honda
right?
Western Division.
Well, the Honda is the official sponsor, but this is the Evander Kane lock of the week
Ooh,
from the San Jose Sharks.
That,
Not that they're going to win. No, it's going to be the Avalanche. Yeah, the Avalanche are taking the West.
well, given Evander Kane's history, if he says it's going to happen, then put all your money on Vegas.
That's
The
it.
Scotia Bank North Division, Tom.
Wait, who do you have coming out of the West? Did you say Colorado?
Yeah, it was
Colorado, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
all right,
no-brainer.
okay.
Yeah,
four
who
Colorados. Wow.
would you say? Scotia North?
I got Toronto.
I have Well, look, I think Vancouver
I think it's
and
going to be the
Toronto.
two of them. I think it's going to be
Yeah, I
Toronto and
agree.
Vancouver, but I think Toronto's going to come out.
I have Vancouver coming out of there.
I'm going to say Toronto. I think it is going to be between those two. It's going to be the young up and coming team or the more veteran team, and I think in this case the more veteran team is going to hold on to take the division.
I'm gonna go with Winnipeg. I'm gonna go on a limb here.
Wow.
Patrick,
The team everybody's trying to leave.
Patrick
Right.
Laine is going to score 56 goals in 56 games, and they're going to go right to the
Wow.
playoffs, and then
Wow.
lose
What
four
is Connor?
straight.
What is Connor gonna do?
He's going to
Maybe
be
I
that guy.
he's going to be overrated.
I hate that guy.
Write that prediction down. Patrick Line, a 56 and 56. We got to send that to Freezing Cold Takes.
Oh man,
I
that would be
think-
awesome.
I think Patrick Laine is going to do pretty well, though. I think he's going to come out and prove people that he's a good player. I think they're going to surprise people. Winnipeg, they did a good run last year. Why not? Why not have them? I think Toronto's a bunch of fucking Maple Leaves anyway. Whatever. Screw the Maple Leaves.
They're like the Flyers. They can't figure out that goaltending actually wins in this league.
Yeah. I don't care. I think
I'm
they're
not a
they're-
Freddie
they're-
Anderson guy at all.
I'm not either, but Toronto's. I think they're overrated. Vancouver is a good team for sure. I think those three will be the top three, and maybe even Ottawa. Ottawa could really push. They've been really updating that
No.
roster.
No.
You could. Who knows?
Yeah, they could
they'll-
push for the first overall pick.
Listen,
No.
there's only 3 teams that don't make it in that division.
Yes. And Ottawa
So-
is going to be the last of them.
Right.
Listen.
And the NHL would be very mad at us with all the Visa MasterCard talk we've had. Nobody's ever mentioned why isn't he using a Discover card to get into the United States. So what about the Discover Central Division? I got Dallas.
You got Dallas.
I got Dallas.
You got
Again,
Dallas.
maybe it's
The Dallas COVID stars.
maybe it's again that same I'm falling victim to what they did last year,
Listen, they're smart. They went and got everybody got COVID now, so
Right.
that
Yeah, no, I
during
I
the
don't
season
disagree
they'll
with
have
you.
nobody out. They will be missing nobody all season, and we didn't talk about that as a factor all much here. But
Yeah.
I mean, the league was really good about it. I know we were having a chat about it on text and how NHL's really done a pretty amazing job, except for the Dallas Stars. But yeah, that's
now's
they're
when
gonna be-
now's when the trouble can start though. Now you're going to start
Yeah.
traveling. Now's when the issue is going to arise.
they're gonna be coughing all over Tampa Bay every time they play them in Carolina and try to keep them from keep winning the division.
So who do you have, Nick? You have
I got
Dallas
Tampa.
too?
Come on.
You have
No,
Tampa?
Tampa.
Billy?
I don't miss any question.
Well, I got to take a minute here, right? Because you got Dallas, you got the 2 Stanley Cup challengers from last season in the division, and there's a guy I know who's actually he wants to get on our podcast, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. there's a guy I know who was telling me, he wants to pick Dallas because Tampa doesn't have Kucherov for the season, and Dallas was real competitive with them, in the finals last year, and he thinks that Dallas is going to find their way into first place and out of the division there. But the guy I was talking to is Mike Milbury. He's looking for a job. But anyway, so I everything that he says is wrong. So I'm going to go with Tampa. I think with Kucherov, obviously Kucherov's a loss, but I think that's such a great team that they're so deep. They're not ready to fall off yet, and I think they could absorb that. Especially, I mean, who knows what you're going to get from Stamkos, but you're replacing one superstar with another, at least for the time being, and I think Vasilevsky might be all they need, honestly. So I think I'm liking Tampa to come out of there.
Yeah, the guy who lives in Tampa, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say this. Carolina's coming out of that division.
You've
been saying it for weeks. You have been saying
Carolina
it for
Hurricanes.
weeks. Yeah,
I would be a hypocrite if I didn't pick them. So the 4 I have: Philly, Vancouver, Carolina, Colorado. I have Philly beating Vancouver, Colorado beating Philly, and I have the Colorado Avalanche raising Lord Stanley's Cup.
I've got Colorado beating Toronto.
Wow.
Philly beating Dallas. So Colorado, Philly final, and Colorado winning.
Whoa, look at us. Look at us. Who thought we'd be here? Not me.
I did.
Not me.
I set an alarm to be here every week.
Do you really set an alarm?
Of course I do.
Oh my God. You just don't know that it's Tuesday night. We record our podcast.
If I didn't have an alarm, I'd forget about you fuckers.
All right.
Fine.
Jesus.
All right.
Christ. Nick?
I guess I'll go. I got let's see. I got the Isles in our division, right? So Isles losing Tampa. I think Tampa's gonna beat us again. I think Tampa's too good. In the East, and then the West, I got Colorado over Winnipeg, and I think it's going to be just a repeat. I don't know. I think Colorado's really good. I think they're a better matchup than Dallas was this year. I think with Devon Taves and, I think there's some small tweaks to their team. They could definitely push them, but Tampa's too good, man. I don't know. That team if they're the same team, if they're, I don't see them falling off enough to just not be that same dominant team. Barring any injuries, barring COVID.
I mean, that's why they re-signed Pat Maroon. They figured
anywhere that guy goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anywhere that guy goes. He's like Justin Williams.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I got the Flyers playing against the Lightning, and I'd like the Lightning to beat the Flyers good. Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
Fuck the Flyers.
And so my other series would be Colorado and Toronto, and obviously a Canadian team's not going to advance. Colorado wins that. And so we get a finals between Colorado and Tampa, and nobody's really said, everybody's been saying Kucherov's going to miss the regular season. They're leaving that window open for the guy to return, for the playoffs. I think that might be a bit much. Either way, I think I'm liking Tampa and their experience. I think Colorado gets a taste of what needs to be done, but I don't think they get to the holy grail this year.
So 2-2.
2-2. Two guys picked the exact same Stanley Cup Finals. The other two picked the exact same Stanley Cup Finals. Everything's the same. Unbelievable. Look at you guys. Did we rehearse this?
Like we planned it out.
Holy shit.
Hey, on paper, it's really easy, but
absolutely.
20 games in, this could we could all be throwing these things out the window.
Yeah,
right.
No doubt.
It could be Ottawa, Buffalo in the finals.
Yeah. There's always a team, man. Actually, so that's a good point. I think. Who's surprise team of the year?
Surprise team of the year?
I want to say the Rangers, but again, I go back to that trust issue of do they really develop their top end talent? If there's really a new sheriff in town in New York, it could be the Rangers.
I don't know if it's a surprise, but I'm going to say the Florida Panthers.
Don't say the Florida Panthers.
I'm saying the Florida Panthers.
Every year somebody says the Florida Panthers.
I'm going to be the guy this year that says the Florida Panthers. I mean, I have the Rangers finishing third in the East. So, I mean, are they my pick? Probably, but if it's not going to be them, because I'm a fan, I'm going to go with Florida.
I'm going to go with Ottawa Senators. I think they're going to push teams, be better than they expect it to be. Who knows?
Like they picked that step-on deal and a couple other guys that they got as more defensive roles and for that veteran leadership for those young guys. I think it's going to do them a world of good, but I still think they're still finishing 7 in the North.
And I'm going to say New Jersey.
That's a fair one. Jersey could surprise.
They're still going to finish 6th, but they're going to be competitive in game, 45.
Well, then how is this a surprise?
Because nobody really expects them to be competitive
I
late
expect
in the
them.
season.
I expect them to be competitive in every single game.
Not if you haven't finished 6th.
I
mean,
didn't say they were going to win any of those games, but I have them at least being competitive. I don't know. You're such a fucking homer.
Hey, if they just miss the playoffs, I think that'll be a pretty good story. But I don't know, because it's a tough division.
And again, like Tom said earlier, it's not that it's not like it's great teams. It's just everybody is in that same spot, that same position.
Yeah,
it's all very similar rosters.
Yeah, and look, this is the last time we have to say on paper. This is the last time we have to say predictions because the NHL starts tomorrow night. We can't wait. Starts with the Flyers, Penguins. Fuck the Flyers.
Billy, will you tuck me in?
The Flyers.
Billy, will you tuck me in tonight?
No, I will.
By the way, Tom, the Knicks play tomorrow night, so I don't think they play at home tomorrow night. I don't think
I don't think they're gonna have. Yeah. So they have to wait till the morning skate. Fuck.
Sounds like it. So both teams will be on that for a fresh sheet of ice. Hopefully. It's,
so that ice is gonna be in real good shape that first night, boy.
Gonna be
interesting. All right, that's gonna do it for us. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @friends_rivals, on Facebook at Friends and Rivals, YouTube Friends and Rivals. Don't forget to subscribe, click, comment, and share. That's right.
Do all those at the same time.
Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe there and even give us a rating because it does really help out our show. Billy, play us out.
Oh, my friends and rivals. Flyers fun, Flyers fun.